Okay, let's take a look at this today before we even get started. This is the 20-minute chart on Nasdaq. This was Tuesday, this was Wednesday. These two look very, very similar, right? We've got a big, huge bull flag and, something that definitely looks like a bull flag over here. To me, this just says that they are driving up the prices early, getting everybody in a frenzy, thinking that we've got some kind of a bear market rally, and then just selling to retail for the rest of the day. Selling to retail for the rest of the day. We've had massive sell-offs at the end of the day. That's just my 2 cents, but 2 days in a row of that, and they're not really breaking out into some sort of a bullish pattern. It's just really, really strange. So let's take a look at today. So as we were saying, this was just a melt up to start the day. I probably would put this into a fake up category, but this was one of those moves where it started just like Tuesday, and it just started ripping up right away. And I'll show a picture on here of the RSI of those Nasdaq stocks, but they were in the 80s once again. And so yes, these I don't recommend getting in on the open. I played it very, very small. They did go from 59 cents to $1.78. Came back in here. I think this was really the big test here. This right here was, let me see if I can make this white. This was the big test right here for it to come back and test some kind of support. You can see the wicks here. And once this test came in here and it ended up moving up above, you knew we were in for something a little bit bigger here. So we are now about 45 minutes into open. And so if you missed the open, that's hard. The last 2 days have been really tough like that. So what you try to do is you try to find that pullback. And these fib extensions here and retracements, you can have them both on your screen at the same time. It gives you a really good idea of, okay, I'm going to try to sell into strength if it can get up there. And you can see right there it tapped it. It gives you a chance to sell right into strength. If it moves up after that, then you're hoping you can sell at that next fib. And so if it doesn't, then you want to make sure that you get out, because that's a pretty big move to start your day. Yes, so that right there was probably an indication that this is going to be about as high as that we're going to see in our day. It's hard to know that for sure. So I'm going to redraw the fibs here. So we're watching this and we're wondering if this might be the high of the day that's coming in. And you can see right here, now this is actually going to switch over and show a PSAR dot. What's really nice about TradingView is they allow you to do a right click on these dots and you can get alerts sent to your phone. When I see the dot switch, I want to make sure I'm just watching and wondering if I can find a good spot to come in, if this is actually going to be a trend. And so you can see this is starting to break down, but I'm not really in a hurry to jump in right away, especially when we just saw this huge melt up. So you can see this is going to start fighting back up. You can see the 820 clouds are very green. This is still a very bullish day so far. And so I'm just trying to find, is there some kind of a trend here that I can try to draw some trend lines for? And so that one right there was interesting. I'm going to just see if I can draw a trend line here and see if I can get my trend line here underneath these wicks. And you can see that we've got a wedge forming. And this is something I called out in our private Twitter just for people to watch. It could break up to the high side and we could be continuing with calls. It could break down to the low side. We could be continuing with going in with puts. And so I'm actually averaging in. When I see a PSAR switch after a high of the day, I start averaging in. But I also want to make sure that if it breaks below this wedge, I'm in right there. And so these right here, they were 32 cents for these puts. These were the 280 puts. And we've got our levels pretty well drawn out. You can see it was really respecting this fib. I'm selling at this fib. I'm trying to scale out a little bit right there. But then right here, this yellow one, this is VWAP, and I am making sure that I sell at VWAP because I just never know if it's going to jump up after that. I'd rather sell into strength, and I can always buy back later if something crazy happens on the way down. I did hold on to one spot here, one put, just to see if possibly it hit the golden fib, but it came down to a spot right down here, and I'm not sure why it stopped, but it did stop. This is why it's really good to make sure that you're selling at VWAP. And so this is where I'm actually going to speed this up a little bit, because what ends up happening after this is one of the just more annoying moves that I have seen where it just, the RSI was not high. There was not a real strong catalyst that we saw in the market, but it just grinded up. It just was this slow moving, buying the dip kind of a move, and it just did not stop. After a big move down out of that triangle, it just did not stop for a very long time. If you were watching this, and you can see these candles, lots of buying all the way through. And so even when this happens, I am looking for a trend as well. Now I'm on Central Standard Time, and it's getting closer to 1 o'clock. When I see something like this, I wonder if there's going to be some sort of an algo switch in the afternoon. And so I try to just get prepared for this. I'm all out of my positions at this point. I wish those puts would have gone a lot more than they did, but they did not. Let's draw this one and make sure this is white so we can see this a little bit better here too. And now I'm just watching this for a trend break, but it just seemed like it was unsinkable. You can just see buying like crazy. PSAR tried to switch over, but then it came back, and it just was a really stubborn move up. It just wasn't stopping at all. I was not buying calls at this point, and I was just waiting for some sort of an opportunity, and the opportunity started coming up pretty soon here. Even here, I think it breaks down a little bit and starts coming back up. You can see broke down and it came back up to that same trend line again. So when this break happens, okay, so we've got a PSAR switch, and it did break under the 20 EMA, and it did break under this fib. I am trying to find a way to get in on puts, but I do play 0 DTE, and so I don't want to be holding any for too long, so I'm just trying to find a good way to get in. And so let me just slow this down at this point, and our price on these at... it varied right at this point here. They were 15 cents here. And then I want to put a stop buy down here so that if it actually breaks down below there, so now I'm adding to my position. So my average was really at 20 cents a share at this time of day. And you know where I'm selling at this point. I'm selling at this fib right here. And then I am selling the rest at VWAP. And I announced all of those on our private Twitter. It just didn't look for the longest time it was going to get there, but wow, that was a huge, huge flush down. So I was able to sell right here for 34 cents. There it is. So 127% was that full move right to that point. That's not too bad for the end of the day. You never really know what's going to happen at the end of the day. You don't want to hold for too long. There's a half an hour left in the day. I'm all out at this point, but you can see once it broke that trend, big flush down. We'll finish the day and see how it all ended up here. It did end up red after all of that we saw earlier this morning. It did end up red. Yes, look at that. It ended up hitting that golden fib and bounced right away. This is why these fibs are so important. If you were still holding, maybe you were holding some Friday expiries, some weeklies or monthlies, that you would sell right at that fib because it just bounces right there. It's like an electric fence.